Good afternoon, everyone. We made it. I'm John Cafarelli, the co-founder and president of BeautyMatter, and we're here to talk about global retail. So, as beauty becomes increasingly global, international retailers have really taken on a new and very important role, and that role extends far beyond just distribution. They've become translators of sorts, translators of brand identity, curators of cultural relevance, and in many ways, co-authors of how a brand is experienced in a market. So when a brand expands internationally, it's not just entering a new geography, it's actually reinterpreting the way it shows up in that market. So retail partners play a vital role in this, and they help to shape how a brand is marketed, how it's discovered, how it's positioned within a local ecosystem. And the right partnership, as many of you already know, the right partnership can really unlock tremendous growth, but the wrong partnership can be a little challenging at times. And so that's why today's conversation is so important, and we have this incredible panel to help us to sort of decode the whole international retail situation. So let's dive in and let's start with the big picture. As you look across your respective regions, because each of you represent a region, what are the biggest trends shaping beauty retail right now, whether it's a new consumer behavior, an evolving expectation, shifts in how people discover and engage with brands? What would you say are some of the bigger trends shaping your market? So Shannon, let's start with you.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, the UK beauty customer is incredibly engaged, very highly educated, and very hungry. So I think as we've seen this kind of undoubtable change within kind of the discovery journey with digital platforms and creators, we've definitely seen the appetite increase and the kind of window that the customer is kind of patient for narrowing. So the customer wants to get their hands on kind of global brands and products immediately because they can see it everywhere. So that's something that, is something that we really challenge ourselves on to make sure that we're first to market and we're speedy. And then I think what has resonated throughout today and kind of been interwoven into kind of probably all of the presentations today is that storytelling is massive, community, connection, I think is really important. So that's kind of the big area for me.
So Stefanie, this is kind of a hard question for you because you guys have 1,900, Douglas has 1,900 stores across 22 markets, so Europe is not a monolith, but let's go for it anyway. What are some of the biggest trends driving retail in the 22 markets that you guys serve?
Yeah, let's try to put a little frame around it. So I think the big macro trends that we are seeing is, first of all, polarization. So we have a very even-spaced customer base across Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, but we see also that the younger group is growing and the oldest are growing. So if you're in the messy middle, if you don't have a strong brand story and you don't know who you're talking to, that's going to be a difficulty. So it's more and more increasingly polarized. It also goes for offers, so high premium skincare or high premium fragrances can work really well, or the entry price level. And I think in that context, people are looking increasingly for value for money, which doesn't mean cheap. It just means they want to pay the right price. And what we see, which is kind of a story we love, is we see young men, young boys coming into our stores, about 16, 17 years old. They will come in groups of 4 or 5, and they will buy a 250 euro fragrance, the 4 or 5 of them together. So they kind of crowdfund to buy that product they want. So if you have a valuable proposition and you talk to your right customer, they will find you and they will find a way to get to you. And I think the last big macro trend we see is that duality between wanting self-expression. European customers want self-expression, and at the same time, they want science-backed claims. So it's really that fun creativity, but also serious backed up stories.
Yeah, and not to blow up your spot, but you did a fantastic talk yesterday for our Beauty MBA program. And what I loved was like when you were breaking down all the different markets, like Italy and Spain are sort of like in the fun, like they want self-expression categories. And then of course like the Germans and the French are like want that science. So so interesting how you have to, as a retailer, navigate all these different things. But we'll get into that as the conversation moves on. Mohammad, let's talk about the Middle East for a second. Tell us about some of the major trends driving retail there.
I think the Middle East is one of the most evolving beauty markets in the world right now. Change and shaping the trends are very different right now because it's not an ad-driven, but it's a content created driven, mostly from the influencers. And also the expectations are different right now from the customers. They expect the products they order delivered within maximum 2 days. I mean, we had one of the countries that we deliver to, they have this trend where they order the same product from different retailers and have it on cash on delivery. And whoever arrives first, they're gonna pay him and ignore the rest. So that's the new trend in that country specifically. So expectations are changing. Ads are not as effective as before. They're following the new generation of ads, which is the influencers, and that's where the region is actually revolving around.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the Middle East is like one of the fastest growing beauty markets in the world. Like category-wise, what would you say is sort of a focus? Like is skincare, everyone always thinks fragrance first, but like is skincare and hair care, like is it as big
I
as
would say
fragrance?
skincare, honestly.
Yeah?
Because also the huge trend that we have right now is for the K-beauty.
Okay.
It's all around the region right now. And we're one of the biggest like distributors. So we've seen that different generations, we're gonna go to Gen Z also, they love the K-beauty. So I think that's the trendiest thing that's happening right now.
Well, it's definitely a global trend. Shannon, Space NK is known for its ability to spot emerging brands and bring them to market. What do you look for in a brand that wants to expand into the UK? And what signals tell you that they're ready for success in Space NK?
Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying, product comes first. So we're looking at kind of product, white spaces. You know, you really know when you see genuinely good product. So that's kind of first and foremost. Beyond the product, I think our buyers are really attuned to brands that have kind of built an ecosystem for themselves, built a community that speak really meaningfully and purposefully. And it really comes across when you have a brand meeting. When you meet a brand, it's just so clear when that has been thought out and the founder or kind of the leaders and the team are really living those values. So that's really key. It really impresses us when a brand comes and has thought about how they will show up in our environment. We have some very tiny stores, so it's really important to figure out, you know, how the brand plays within one shelf, within a 2-meter gondola in more of a flagship environment. And I think if you have a really strong brand vision and kind of brand codes, you can do that really effectively. So when a brand has kind of already figured out how they will look within those different environments, that's really impressive. And yeah, again, storytelling, going back to that, making sure that the brand is kind of really connected to that community and ready to localize in the market.
So many American brands think of the UK as sort of the first stop.
Yeah.
So Canada, I guess, but the UK is like sort of the bigger opportunity, I suppose, for many brands. Like, is there something that says like maybe this brand is an American brand, but is not going to work in the UK? Are there any sort of markers of that?
I think it's an evolving piece for sure. I think efficacy really speaks to the UK customer and science-backed. I think it's obviously a European thing. So being very efficacy-focused is really important. And I think sometimes a natural story doesn't maybe land in the same way. Not that we don't have great brands that work in that space. I think it's more that the UK customer is looking for efficacy, but also that play element. So it's kind of a mixture of both. So yeah, I think it really varies by brand.
Yeah, for sure. Stefanie, Douglas offers what can only be described as sort of this one-stop shop entry into Europe. What are you looking for when you're introducing new brands, and what kind of support does Douglas make available to brands that partner with you?
Yeah, what we first look for is that brand answering a white space in our assortment. So since we have such a large assortment, we have over 800 brands, we gave a role to each category. So skincare, for example, is about expertise and education. And we really look for brands on all price points in that and all customer groups. And then the first step, I would say, is we want to understand the brand and really want to understand what you are about and what you're looking for. Then we provide very, sorry to say, boring things such as help on compliance, help on labeling, we have one warehouse in Poland, you can ship to one warehouse. So all the nitty-gritty backstage stuff while we build together a co-created 360 brand marketing plan and how we play your brand in social or with our 60 million CRM customers. So it's really that one dedicated team to bring you into Europe and play you across all borders of the 22 countries. And if you feel that you're maybe not ready yet for the #1 premium retailer in Europe, in our group we have Niche Beauty, which is one website and they ship all over Europe. So it's a first perfect step into Europe when you're a smaller brand, but you want to get kind of your foot in the door and kind of test out the European consumer. That team can take care of you and really give you another platform to understand and connect with your European consumer.
Yeah, Mohammad, similarly, like you guys are a pan Middle East, company, so it's not just one market. You have many markets. What does brand fit mean in your region? And I guess what I'm curious about is like, what do brands most often misunderstand when entering the Middle East?
Actually, what does well globally does well also in our region.
Okay.
That's to start with. But what is the big mistake they do is the same manual of campaigns they use globally, they keep using in the region. I mean, you can do good, but there are a lot of brands that do even better because they localize what they want to actually attract that customer. So they localize their messages, they localize their campaigns, where we actually have our input. We have our 2,200 influencer that comes actually from the people. So they know how to address those messages, how to actually give those, let's say, ideas and values. Because in the region, people are very, very cultural expressive. So when it comes to campaigns, if you keep doing the same thing that you do globally, you won't achieve the goals that you have in the Middle East. So I can give you a great example, actually. For example, Makeup Forever. They're dominating the market for the past decade because they know the culture and they know how to actually send the messages. They use our influencers every year to do actually a campaign in Ramadan. So they're engaging the people there. They're engaging the customers, the consumers that actually comes from that region. So I believe they're going to be dominating this market for so long because they know how to reach that market.
Yeah. This is a question for all of you guys. Every retailer sort of faces the same challenge of balancing, commercial performance with keeping the assortment fresh and exciting. And so sometimes that translates into like a tension almost of like serving legacy customers versus figuring out ways to connect with new customers. And from the merchandising side, it also sometimes translates into this tension between, sort of these big brands that are maybe not as exclusive, but oftentimes pay the bills, versus like, let's curate one of our awesome next 50 brands, which are smaller and don't have the same sort of draw as like a L'Oreal brand might, for example. So how do you guys navigate that balance? Stefanie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think for us, it's all about preparation with the brand, to get to know the brand, to understand where it fits in the assortment. And what are the expectations, what are the legs that can build? We believe that these younger brands bring really fresh ideas and also fresh thoughts into our assortment. So we want diversity to speak to our consumers. And I think it also is sometimes really good because these brands are so good at storytelling that we can then use that to challenge also other brands to say, well, you should be much more dynamic, etc. I think the balance is important, and it's really important. We are not interested in a short-term hit and run. We want to build something with you over time. And so the preparation is absolutely key, that we both understand what you're looking for and what we can provide. And then I think it's the perfect mix between the bigger propositions, but the fresh new ideas as well.
Yeah, Mohammad, how about you?
I think it's almost the same, but we don't have shelves, so it's going to be easier for us.
I guess screen space.
to distribute everything. Yes. I'd say our average basket could be around 6 items. So if you have the, let's say, the well-known brands or the well-established brands, it's going to be easier for them to have a buy from there. But we also have the new younger brands, which also brings freshness or fresh customers also. So we've seen this 6 items have, I can't like share exactly the numbers, but let's say 4 to 2, where legacy brands and 2 younger brands. So I think we don't see any problems having both legacy and fresh brands with us.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. The 4-2, because it means that the platform is sort of this great place for discovering new brands, because they're coming for the stuff that they're familiar with.
I love working with fresh brands.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh, good. Well, there's plenty in the room who will love to work with you at some point.
I work with them all.
Good. Shannon, how about you?
Well, we do have lots of shelves, but not enough, to be fair. So it's a very relevant question for us. It is, in many ways, for our kind of buying team, it's our biggest challenge. So our store formats are boutique style. So we range from kind of anywhere from about 100 square meters, if I'm translating it correctly, from square feet, up to a flagship, which is still only roughly 450 square meters. So it's a real focus for the team. So curation is so important. And yes, we want to drive new customers through kind of trending brands and exciting new categories and formats. But we have a really strong core loyalist customer. But actually what we found, and I think it's probably similar, is that it's not necessarily a linear journey. Like we have those loyalists are also buying into the trending brands, and we have people saving up and maybe crowdfunding for those big kind of market-leading luxury skincare brands, for instance. So it's important that we have a really good representation of both. But I guess for us, it's about having a really stringent point of view on what kind of the markers are for that curation and to kind of come into Space NK.
Yeah. So, sometimes here in the US, when large retailers take risks on smaller brands, they often don't have the same, or they hold those brands to the same standards as they hold the much larger brands. So when you guys take risks, like, whether it's backing a new brand or testing a new format, whatever it is, like, how do you define success, and like, how long do you give an initiative before deciding if it's working? And we could start with anyone here. It's a question for all of you. Who wants to go first?
I guess ladies first.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think how long is always different. I think it's always very dependent on kind of the partnership and what you're trying to achieve with that partnership. So I think we take a very bespoke approach to all of our brand launches. But in terms of we do like to see ourselves as brand accelerators. So we really overinvest in new brands, and we do have a kind of very passionate and kind of very ambitious team of buyers and merchandisers who will work very closely with new brands in the market to really shape the strategy, but really try to keep in mind the vision and the values of the brand, because I think if you don't do that, that's where you maybe lose your way. And yeah, from both sides, like, we're in business together, we want to make it work, and I think aligning at the start on kind of objectives and the job that you're doing for each other is really important, and you have to have those conversations so that you're setting yourself up for a long-term partnership, which is always our goal.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's very similar to what you're saying, Shannon. It depends on where the brand stands. So we just launched, for example, Nest New York, which already has a long history in wholesale, and so there's great experience, and we could build something together, and then we kind of build out the plan. And we launched a brand that was basically in D2C only and in professional clinics, so it's a high premium skincare brand. So it's 2 totally different stories. I think what's key for me is the preparation and to talk about what we're looking for and what they're looking for, and then really setting ourselves goals and having very regular meetings to talk about what are you doing, what are we doing, and where do we pivot or where do we have to adjust the plan that we have built. And I think it's that regular conversation that also is part of our partnership, because we consider you our brands, and we are really investing time and resources in the partnership to make it work.
Yeah, and shelf space.
Exactly, in shelf space and e-com space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mohammed, how about
I
you?
mean, we don't have the problem with the shelf space, so it's easier for us. But for whenever we introduce something new into the market, sometimes it's a slow paced, but it takes time where it reaches actually the peak. So we actually seen. I'll go back to the K-Beauty when we introduced it in 2018. It was a very slow-paced market for us, but today we actually have more than almost 180 K-Beauty companies. So I think it started very slow, but it's picking up really fast right now. So it just needs time in the market. When influencers are explaining the products as they should, and as the manual that is supported by the brand, I think there's a big chance for us succeeding in that.
Let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about discovery, how people are discovering brands in your stores. Stefanie, when we were preparing for this, we talked about things like pop-ups, experiential retail, some CRM-driven personalization. What's resonating the most with your customers, and like what's driving the biggest amount of discovery of brands in your ecosystem?
I almost want to say all of the above, but I'm going to go more specific. What we do a lot is services in store, but with an angle again. And so we have created makeup schools, for example. So it's makeup service, but with this school angle. So we'll teach our customers how to use the brand. The same for skincare schools or other events. And it's all happening in store. So that's a great way to discover a brand with the guidance of one of our wonderful beauty advisors. But we also do pop-ups where we have rented a space, which is a white canvas, and then we invite the brand to do what they would like to express. So we've had a cafe, we've had a disco club, we've had a beautiful fragrance pop-up. So it can really depend on the brand of what you want to do. And lastly, and that's more over the whole journey of the customer, the targeted CRM is really key for us, because we pull out who's your customer, what else are they buying, to you referencing to your basket, what are connections we could create, and how can we personalize that message. So I think it's a very different dot on the customer journey, whichever we activate, if it's the pop-up, the in-store, or the CRM.
Yeah, and Shannon, in the UK, as many in the audience will know, TikTok is a major driver of discovery, just as it is here in the US. How do you design for virality without losing focus on long-term loyalty?
Great question. It's a tricky one. It's, we want to lean into those trends. I think you have to set out to really champion the customer and be able to lean into those. But we shouldn't and don't do everything. I think we do jump on trends, but it has to always ladder into a broader kind of strategy, right? And it has to come back to who we are and having a real sense of who we are. Our social team is super young, super ambitious. They have a lot of freedom versus other places that I've worked, and it works really well. They test and learn a lot, but it always comes back to knowing who we are and what our voice is. So yeah, we don't go into everything, but I think we give ourselves the freedom to evolve as we go. And then I think one of the biggest challenges for us is in terms of physical space in store is where do you put these trending items, these new formats? Some of them are much bigger than we're used to in body mists, for instance. And what we've done is introduce kind of multiple kind of new VM formats to cater to that, so that then it doesn't take away from our standard shelf space or our standard gondola spaces, which is, still really important and part of our core. So our big store opening in August, we had Oxford Circus, which is now our biggest store in the estate. And it has a dedicated play space, and that has kind of a pick and mix station. It has kind of, sounds weird, but it's great, a sushi bar of fragrance.
Love that.
And the execution is great, but it gives customers a place to play and to discover all of those kind of TikTok trends without taking away from like the expertise and the service and kind of the great presentation of all of our existing brands.
Yeah, no, and the new store is stunning. I was lucky enough to be able to see it. Mohammad, in the Middle East, where social commerce and celebrity-led engagement dominate, tell us about the consumer journey there. Like, how is it different than it might be in Europe or in the UK or here in the US?
Let's say they built their trust among like different influencers. I mean, you're gonna see some people that follow one of the influencers that is basically just talking about hair care, and they trust her with the hair care. And you're gonna see another influencer that speaks about makeup, they trust her with the makeup. They don't, like before, whenever they introduce anything, it's like a gospel. They'll go ahead and buy it. But right now they have, let's say for example, X is for makeup, Y is for hair care, and Z, let's say for example, is for skincare. So the journey has been changing recently. It's not, let's say whatever they promote, but whoever they trust with whatever they actually promote, and they know they tested him before using the same exact way that they did it before. So that's probably how people and the journey we have seen recently, especially the last 2 years.
Interesting. All right, well, why don't we open it up for questions? If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. We have a question right here in the front row.
Thank you very much to all of you. I want to ask you, how do you foresee Latin beauty brands in your markets? Do you see potential from the Latin beauty brands?
Who wants to start?
I'm happy to start. I think there's really something beauty around the world. So yes, right now K-beauty is also flying at Douglas. I think there are additional Asian beauty that can be very successful in Europe. And I believe it will become more and more beauty around the world and not only segmented to one area. And I would love to see more Latin American brands because I think you have an incredible beauty vision and ideal. So I think it could be really interesting. And then we need to learn more, of course.
Yeah, completely agree.
How does Latin beauty show up in the UK?
I mean, I completely agree. I think, yeah, the beauty customer is kind of so much more attuned to kind of global trends and global brands more than ever. So I think there's definitely a place for, yeah.
Yeah, and through social also, it goes so much faster.
Sure.
So no matter where the trend comes from, where it picks up, that's how
Yeah.
K-beauty also got that resonance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Actually, for us, I've been, a month ago, I was in South America, so I do see some potential in the beauty industry there because they're very, very similar to our region, influencer-based and content-led, honestly. So yes, I do see that.
Oh.
Also, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, the brands coming out, I mean, we have a bunch of brands in our, on our list and a bunch in our market that are, Latin brands, and the aesthetic is incredible. And yeah, I think there's a place for them in each of these markets. I think they will resonate. We had another question. Was it Nadia? Did you have a question? No? Oh, there it is.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Raquel. My question's for Shannon. I'm actually the buying manager at Health. So I think we've talked to your team a little bit. Curious to know how you see beauty, health, wellness, longevity all kind of playing together over the next few years in the UK market.
Great question. I think it's becoming more and more interconnected, right? I think wellness in the UK, I think, took some time to kind of take hold, but I think what we're seeing now is that, more than ever, customers want to feel something when they're shopping, but they want to get more out of their product. And I think we're seeing kind of health and wellness bleed into all categories, not just skincare and body care, where they have traditionally been, We're seeing it across the board. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think it's great to see that the UK customer is really leaning into that.
Same, agree. I think there's a trend also of making your beauty rituals more wellness, more holistic. And then there's, of course, the whole journey of, is it skin and body care and then going into supplements, etc., which I think is a tricky topic because Europe, again, Douglas, we're all about regulations, etc. But we have a closed marketplace on our website where we actually invite brands to connect directly. And that gives them the access to our Douglas customers, but they will then ship directly to the customer. So I think that is for us our segue to be able to offer that section of wellness to our customers in a much more streamlined way.
I think we had another question. Oh, it's not on.
Is it on? Oh, yeah,
it's on.
sorry. Hi, Alan with the brand Scandinavia. So 15 years ago, we launched in Asia. And when I thought about why we were there, I realized because they thought America was cool and on trend. And I'm curious if globally America still has the same standing as far as trend as it did a decade ago.
That's actually pretty good. That's a good question.
Interesting.
How do people feel about, if people are tying America to American beauty brands, how do people feel about those in your market?
I think the cool factor's still there, for sure. And I think the customer kind of isn't kind of connecting like kind of brands and products to kind of wider, you know, political and economic pieces. So yeah, I think it's definitely still there, and we definitely see the customer looking to America for new brands and to kind of discover. And the the changing digital journeys has really supported that.
Mohammad, how about you?
Yes, I think also the American brands are keeping up with the trends.
Yeah.
So they're still in the market and they're still keeping up with everyone else.
Stefanie, with the last word, do you have a
Last
perspective?
word, fully agree. I think the diversity of what the US can bring as trends has even more increased. And it's not one size fits all trend. Has lasted, but it has evolved so much. And I have to do a little shout out to Sarah Creel down here because the brand you created for makeup women over 40, I think that is an additional layered trend that is so aspiring. And I think that balance of newness and differentiation, everybody in the room, all the brands I've met, they're all different trends. And I think that's really strong in the US, and that's what we appreciate in Europe and at Douglas.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, that's it. We have to wrap it up. But thank you guys so much for your amazing insights, and thank you guys for the great questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.